Hi, I'm Kelsey Caldwell, and my family and I are on day 21 of our COVID quarantine. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. This has been a crazy ride. We've been recording videos along the way, just kind of our own video journal. And today I just had a topic actually kind of on my mind last night and today, and I was reminded again, had a friend on Facebook who posted a video of how they were feeling after their cousin had just recently passed away. And they said some beautiful things, like we can't take any of this with us. We have a friend right now who's on a ventilator from COVID, and they're really not sure what the future holds, and it doesn't look promising. We have multiple friends who've lost family members in the last few weeks and aren't able to attend funerals. And I just was thinking about how this whole situation has really surfaced the topic of death. And yeah, I'm using that word. When I was 21 years old, my first husband died in a drowning accident. And that experience significantly reshaped for me how I looked at life and death. How I looked at death in general. It definitely reminded me that we're never promised tomorrow. It made me very much value and appreciate every day and every moment that I get with the people that I love and value. It made me think about what I believe about what happens after death. It made me really evaluate American culture around death. I remember as a 21-year-old woman having to come to terms with the fact everybody was treating it like it was such a tragic thing. And don't get me wrong, emotionally, it was absolutely tragic. But I had to realize that it's also part of the journey of life. I had to come to grips with that. And I had to realize that in my upbringing and in American culture, that the death is almost this elusive, maybe never gonna happen, so traumatic when it does happen. Again, not downplaying it. It was traumatic and tragic for me when I experienced the loss of my husband at 21. It was earth-shaking for me last week when I was worried I was gonna lose one of my kids because of the sicknesses we've been experiencing. I'm not trying to downplay any of that, but it really got me thinking about how we treat it in our culture versus other cultures. And this whole situation, the conversation about death has been resurfacing again in our culture, and people are talking a little bit more about it, how they feel about it, what they think about it. And it just has me back to that space of really redefining and remembering, how do I feel about that piece of life? Because it is, right? It's a piece of human life. And many of us disagree on what happens after death. Many of us might disagree on how we feel or how people should feel about death. Different cultures, feel differently about it. But I do think, and I would hope that we can all agree that it is a great thing to consider, not to obsess about, not to panic or go into crazy spaces of worry, but to consider. Because it is a part of our life, and in our culture, I think a lot of times it's a part of our life that we can sometimes ignore. And for me, we've already been very open. We're a faith-based family, and I have great hope in my future beyond death. I have great hope in what I believe eternity for me looks like. I have fears for sure about what that moment of finality in my human existence may look like. I have great sadness on what it might look like the days that I lose my parents and some of the people, my sister maybe, some people are most valuable to me in my life, my husband today. I have a lot of feelings and thoughts and fears and hopes. But again, as this conversation is surfacing, maybe it hasn't surfaced for you yet, maybe it's only surfaced around you, maybe it hasn't even quite surfaced around you, but I'm finding myself again considering what I think and feel about that part of life. And so I just encourage you today to take a minute to absorb that and to ask yourself how you feel about it. Again, these videos are inclusive. They're not a shame fest, they're not a judgment fest. If you want to share how you feel and what you think about death, what you're afraid of, what you're confused about, what you don't know how you feel and think, if you want to share that in these comments, please do. Any rude responses, I'll be deleting those, because I think we all have the right to have a voice as we walk through and figure this out. And it's okay to think differently as we're finding our space and we're finding where we think and believe. And I think it's also really valuable to see where other people think and believe and sit and feel. At the very least, to show them that we love and respect them as an individual and as a human being. So please, start exploring it. Tell me what you think. Tell me how you feel. I know that for some of you, you're like, gosh, she's talking about a really dark subject today. But the reality is, it's part of our life. And at 21 years old, I had a jolting experience that made me realize that death is a part of our life. And so let's begin to consider it. Let's continue to consider it wherever you're at. You might be solid in how you feel about it, and that's okay. But it's also a good moment to remind ourselves, what am I solid in how I feel? Or maybe I'm not solid at all. Don't be afraid of this thought. Don't be afraid of it. Just be willing to consider it and explore it, because the reality is, it is a part of our life. So my name is Kelsey. 3 weeks in, I'm just realizing it's another great topic that's surfacing around us. So I hope I didn't make you too uncomfortable with this conversation today. And I hope that you feel safe enough to share in the comments, or feel free to private message me. We're all on a journey. We all have a right to have our voice. And I really respect whatever voice you have. So I hope that I said that graciously. The Caldwells are figuring it out day by day. And I just hope and pray that the worry, the stress, the panic that you may be feeling about loss and grief just begins to fade away. And that you're allowed to just feel free in thinking about and considering that portion of your life.